I've put up with a fair amount of shit since I started this, but that takes the fucking cake. I probably could have been a bit smarter than that, but I had to do something to stay in the race. First impressions of this weren't great. I'd made a bit of a mess of this so far. It's a nightmare to keep a heavy ship under control in this area. Aim was brilliant, result was shit. That was incredibly ballsy. Upside, had 5th secure. Downside, couldn't climb any higher. Loved how quick off the mark that was. That was piss poor timing. This was one thing I could have done without. That was close, not hair close, but close. How the hell did I land that? I wasn't expecting to do so. With things more or less under control, I aimed to make sure I didn't finish in 5th this time. That was nicely handled. Favorable turn of events. I now had a good reason to give this the beans, but the luck didn't last long. Surprisingly, this result and the last sent my motivation into overdrive. Now this was more like it. Took a bump, but that wasn't going to stop me. I seriously thought I'd be able to time that well enough to land a hit. Third was only just in my sights. Now it was on. My chance to claim third had vanished, and I only had myself to blame for acting rashly. I'm surprised I was able to catch back up to third. Usually after one or two mistakes, any progression of any kind is brought to an immediate end. I managed to narrowly inch ahead and lock third down. Because of how well this was going, I wanted to see if I could climb any higher. I couldn't, unfortunately. At this point, I had my fill of Silverstream. The track just gets kind of boring after a while. I had a very bad feeling about this. Textbook shot. I could have made the old excuse if I had room to move out of the way of those, but it was a lot harder to keep my ship under control than you'd think. It was already enough of a pain in the ass to get through this in one piece. Being nudged by the opposition just makes it even worse. What exactly was the one in front of me trying to accomplish by doing that? You can't fire missiles backwards in this game. I have no idea what went wrong here. I did what I normally did, but I got fucked over by the game's out of bounds system or whatever the hell it's called. Okay, that one was my fault. This was really going to pot. I had a lot of work to do to come away from this with something. I managed to reclaim my lost progress easily enough, but that meant fuck all in the end. I was having none of it this time. When it comes to tackling corners, timing is everything. As a result of that and some measure of luck, I reached 5th in the time it took me to blink. Surprisingly, my luck was holding out. This was mucking things up a bit. Finally, I got to breathe down someone's neck. My mood and priorities instantly changed. What goes around comes around.
Missile.
A certain someone was still being an irritant.
Shockwave.
I needed to get some distance. Didn't care how I did it so long as I did it.
Shockwave.
Good thing I had the means to stop that getting out of hand. Go wide to avoid a shockwave. Wound up hitting a wall. I'd say that the lesser of two evils here. Not gonna lie, that made me shit myself. Losing second was okay. I wasn't going to lose third. I faced a trial and a half here and come up standing. I was really pleased with myself.
Mid-pack clearance unlocked.
The pack wheel has now been updated to include the new mid-pack clearance perk. As a bonus, no additional handicaps have been added to increase chances of winning perks.
I felt like I had a remote chance. I beat this twice now, so I could do it again if I just stayed in the zone.
3, 2, 1, go!
Unbelievable Tekis. Thanks to a mistake at the start, I completely lost 7th, and I didn't see it again until much later. As a result of this annoying turn of events, 7th was the highest I'd end up. This kind of set the tone a bit. At this point, there was only one thing left that was worth doing.
Respin awarded. Time trial pass awarded.
At this point during putting part 2 together I started to have issues with Clipchamp. Text-to-speech is still in use but I'm using voices from Filmora instead.
Congratulations.
I felt pretty good about my chances going into this. The ship I was using was more than suited for a track like this.
3, 2, 1, go!
On Silverstream, Pfizer's incredible handling really comes into its own. Just when I thought third would be the highest I'd end up. Clearly those mines weren't as effective as I thought. Someone was starting to become a problem. I'm surprised how easy that was. Part of me believed this would be more than a little interesting.
3, 2, 1, go!
That stalled start put a damper on things. Why didn't I wait until we were outside before firing that? Flew straight into those like a dumbass. Git. So far I wasn't liking the look of this. As far as I know, that was my fault. That little shit was starting to piss me off. See previous statement. I was more than prepared to deal with any shit this time. That was an insane long shot, surprised the hell out of me. Part of me was annoyed by the fact that things only started turning around in the last stretch. The nerve of some people. With that out of the way, my priorities switched to hunting down the rest of the pack. History seemed to be repeating itself. I hate it when I just can't catch a break. It's always something. I'll just have a little off the top, thank you. That move back there with the turbo may have been risky, but I didn't fancy losing all my progress. Third had come into view and I needed to do all I could to claim it. It was now time to go on defense. My finger was hovering over the fire button, ready for any nasty last-minute surprises. That went rather well, all things considered, obviously. What do Ultima 7 Venom and Firestar have in common? The outcome is predictable.
Clipchamp started working again later on, so we were back in business. I had no idea how this one would play out.
3, 2, 1, go!
That didn't fill me with confidence. To say I did that without thinking is an understatement. There was no escape from that. I wasn't expecting to land that shot. I was beside myself to a degree. Yes, I did that with a missile, but it's easy to shake missiles off back there. In shields we trust. A missile or rocket would have been preferable. One of the few times I learned my lesson about something. Little things like that were making me nervous. Cheeky bitch almost ruined everything. Not bad going.
Attention! This video is being interrupted to deliver a quick message. This video will now transition to normal commentary, now returning you to the action.
This one was going to be tough. Question of the hour, how tough was it going to be? That was just terrible. So far, this seemed to be going better than expected. I spoke too soon. In most cases that would have pissed me off, but I managed to keep my position under lock and key, so it was no big deal. Despite a bit of shit on the side, I was in a good position going into lap 2, and I was more than confident that I could reach the top 3. I landed that without locking on. How the hell did I manage that? At this point, third was mine. Because this was going quite well, I decided to proper go for it and keep climbing. Soon enough, my efforts paid off. May have had second, but it looked like I wouldn't be able to reach first. Truth be told, I wasn't bothered. It's just nice to finish in a top 3 position that isn't third for a change. I was on a roll. Truth be told, I didn't feel confident about this one at all.
3, 2, 1, go!
strong-ish start, so I was happy with that. I would not be able to tell you what the fuck happened here. It didn't take me long to catch up at all. That was one of the few good openings I actually had. No problems that time. I think what happened is I went just slightly off. I had superb control and then I lost it. I really wasn't surprised. It took most of the race to reach 6th. That tells you all you need to know about the outcome. Another strong start, but I wasn't holding my breath this time. Why the fuck did I do that? Wasn't interested in dealing with any persistent shit this time. And that's hook, line, and sinker. First impressions were leaving me with many questions, but I had to put these to one side. No big deal, I was still hot on this guy's tail. I was going strong. If I could breeze through half the pack, then I think I stood a chance. For once, timing was really on my side. I couldn't believe what was happening, but I wasn't done yet. I was still having none of that. Almost got him. One of those situations where I had to make a quick getaway. I wanted to save that turbo for the last stretch. That shouldn't have happened. Oricom's ships are very hard to control, and Arados 4 is a technical track. How the hell did I get a victory in just 2 attempts? Visar and AG systems are more suited for Arados 4, yet every time I've used either of those teams here on Rapier class, I walk away empty-handed more often than not. Why? This links to something I discovered later on. I'll explain more when we get there. You know that joke I made earlier about Ultima 7 Venom and Firestar having predictable outcomes? This was no exception. One bit about this visit was different though. The perk wheel results.
Mid-pack clearance awarded.
The mid-pack clearance. Winning this pack will add an extra 11th run to the race that just took place. But now the previous objective of reaching the top 3 has been replaced with a new one. As the name suggests, you need to finish in the mid-pack for victory, which in this case is either 5th or 4th. Finishing in the top 3 while this pack is active will result in a standard victory. Failure to finish in the mid-pack while this pack is active will lead to a fail, and the attempt used for this will be deducted. Let's begin.
3, 2, 1, go!
At the end of a mid-pack clearance race, a prize can be won from the contents shown above. Only one go is allowed regardless of finishing in 4th or 5th. Finishing in 5th would have halved everything, except for the fail cap increase, which will be 15 instead of 20. This is done at random. And the prizes.
Congratulations.
I felt confident about this one. If I could succeed here on Rapier once with Kyrex, I could do it again.
3, 2, 1.
Just what I needed. I was either over-enthusiastic or genuinely struggling to keep my ship under control. That was stupid, but I didn't have much of a choice. Again, I did that without lock-on. I was climbing, but very, very slowly. Okay, that was one of the few things I could have avoided. Just my luck. I'm thankful I had the means to make a partial recovery. You cheeky cow. As if things weren't going bad enough already. That run left a lot to be desired. Those mines I dropped didn't do a whole lot, surprising no one. Why the hell did the one in front of me do that? There was no one in front of him. I held my breath back there. That could have been so much worse. This looked like trouble. again, the results could have been disastrous. I thought I could use the hill to get clear of that. Motherfuckers. Those twats were not about to rob me of this. If I didn't have that turbo, who knows how long this would have taken.
Attention! This video is being interrupted to deliver a quick message. This video will now transition to text-to-speech commentary, now returning you to the action.
I was keeping my expectations low. I knew what happened earlier would be a one-off and wouldn't happen again.
3, 2, 1, go!
This was leaving me in shock. Everything was going so well so far. Talk about getting the fuck out of Dodge. This was showing no signs of stopping. I just couldn't comprehend it. But I knew at some point my luck was going to run out. Something terrible was going to happen and I'd lose all this progress. I was certain of it. The biggest thing I noticed from my observations was that the opposition didn't seem to be putting up much of a fight. Normally they are breathing right down my neck, pelting me with missiles and rockets, and making my life a living hell. Something just had to go wrong soon. I could feel it. This was unbelievable. I was still climbing and nothing was going wrong. Trying to understand this was making my head hurt. I just couldn't accept it. This is when things got interesting. You'd think with all the good luck I've had here, I had Eridos for Rapier Beat or something like that, right? It suddenly hit me. The game has what I'm calling an exclusionary routine. What this basically means is that, on certain tracks, if you're not using certain ships, you will fail almost all the time, and the game will do whatever it takes to make sure that fact is acknowledged. That would explain a few things. So it doesn't matter if the ship you choose is well suited for the track. The game will have a tantrum in the form of the exclusionary routine, because you're not playing by its rules and doing things its way, so to speak. Unfortunately, as far as the WipEout Gauntlet itself is concerned, I have to use every ship regardless of whether or not the game wants me to. I think this is one of the reasons why the perk wheel exists.
No perk.
That was anything but helpful. The previously mentioned exclusionary routine only applies on Rapier class as far as Eridos 4 is concerned. Also, do not quote me back on that. I could be talking shit for all I know. Finally, a change of venue.
3, 2, 1, go!
Truth be told, I reckon I could have gotten away with that because I was on a slower speed class, but it was probably best to play it safe. This straight makes for a fun 100-yard dash. One lap in and half the pack dealt with. That was all the motivation I needed. Surely I couldn't be that far behind, right? Now this was a sight for sore eyes, just as I was starting to worry. Can't tell why I missed that. It could have been one of a number of reasons. Okay, this was good, but this was better. Though that race felt kind of boring, I was just thankful to be racing somewhere different. The repetition of Erido's fall was becoming annoying. No difference in result between this visit and the last one, not worth showing. Good? Bad? I didn't know.
3, 2, 1, go!
Third wind awarded.
Attention! This video is being interrupted to deliver a quick message. This video will now transition to normal commentary, now returning you to the action.
Predictable outcomes are predictable. Chances are I was probably in for a fight.
3, 2, 1.
Terrific. From a sloppy start to really taking the reins, I was loving this. Firing a missile in mid-air is a mixed bag, so it was worth a try. Almost got away with pulling that off. That looked like it was going to get nasty at any moment. Thank God there was an opening. With a missile in hand, my hunt for third began. And that's why I love Terramax. It's so easy to climb up through the positions. The climbing question is not without its hurdles. That's enough of that shit. Of all the things I could have gotten, at least I knew I could keep third secure. Not as fun as previous visits, but still fun. I had this in the bag. Crossing fingers anyway.
3, 2, 1, go!
Hearing missile over and over was making me nervous. Hadn't seen the top 3 for a while, and I never would.
3, 2, 1, go!
Without a jump start, this wasn't looking promising. Just when I thought 7th would be the highest I'd end up. It's so annoying how the opposition are able to get so far ahead so quickly. What's the fucking secret, eh? So far, all I've got to go on is a jump start and a strong performance in the first area. I had 5th. Would I get anything else? This run wasn't much better.
3, 2, 1, go!
I was just continuously holding my breath. This was the best strong start I could have hoped for. Now I needed to stay focused. So far so good, but that could change at any moment. Despite my best efforts, climbing any higher would be pointless. I still haven't come up with a name for scenarios like this. The fact that this keeps happening implies I'm doing something wrong. The WipEout Gauntlet would be impossible if the objective was winner takes all. This one in particular was going to be interesting.
3, 2, 1, go!
It was either hit a wall or hit a set of mines. There was no in between. Paul Jackson being a pain in the ass like always. While on the subject of Paul Jackson, according to the law, next to no information is known about him. He's a man of mystery. Yeah, I'm ejecting out of this shit. It didn't look like my climb was gonna stop anytime soon. Yeah, nice try, fuckface. In hindsight, not the smartest idea. From here, the objective is clear. Yeah, I don't think so, buddy. I was on a roll, there was no denying that. But like always, my time on Easy Street would eventually run out, and I'd come face to face with several more daunting trials. Would I be able to keep the momentum going? What are the trials in question? Would I reach another milestone? All these questions and more will be answered next time. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the conclusion of episode 5.